It's been a week since the release of The Legend of Zelda, Breath of the Wild. If you're watching this, you've probably already seen my review of the game. Some of you agreed with what I had to say, most of you didn't. One thing's for sure, you had a lot to say about my review video. So today's video is about you. What did you think of the game? And why am I such a dumb, wrong, nostalgic bitch? Well, from what I've noticed, there were two sentiments that stood out the most in the comments. And they actually didn't really apply specifically to Breath of the Wild, but were more common arguments brought up around game reviews as a whole. Number 1. Subjectivity and reviews. This argument seems to come up all the time when someone disagrees with the review. Let's play a game. Here's a cake. Let's look at it for a couple of seconds. Upon close examination, there are, in fact, 8 pieces of cake on this plate. Now, this observation is what we call objective. It is a fact that there are 8 pieces of cake in this image. Now it's time to go one step further. Suppose you, the viewer, and I, Tony, each ate a piece of cake. For the sake of this argument, let's assume both pieces are from the same cake. Did you like how the cake tasted? Your answer to this question, whether you like the cake or not, is subjective. It is your opinion whether the cake tastes good or tastes bad, or tastes bitter or tastes too sweet. This same logic can be applied to a film, music, video game, or really any other kind of review. Friends, reviews are subjective. An objective video game review would be a pretty boring thing. In this game, you control Link in the land of Hyrule. There are creatures that you can defeat with weapons. You can walk around, or run around, or climb mountains. There are also shrines, dungeons, and bosses in the game. As soon as a reviewer embarks on the journey of convincing readers that a game is either good or bad, which is how every review I've ever read is set up, we are reading a subjective piece. We are reading the author's opinion on a game. When you read IGN's review of Breath of the Wild, you are reading Jose Otero's opinion. When you watch Egoraptor's video, you are hearing Egoraptor's opinion. When you watched my video, you are hearing me, Tony's opinion. We are all giving our subjective thoughts on this video game. You are free to agree or disagree with those thoughts. Every flaw that someone finds in a game is subjective. I think that's totally cool if you like the music in Breath of the Wild, but I didn't, and that hurt my enjoyment of the game. So I'm going to bring it up in my review, and my final score may reflect that. In a similar vein, I've seen the "it was meant to be like that" argument thrown around, which also doesn't really mean anything to a reviewer. If I spoke to the team behind Wii Music, they would tell us that everything in the game was meant to be like that. Does that mean everyone's criticism of the game is unfounded? Shit, I know George Lucas didn't think The Phantom Menace was deserving of a 55% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Jar Jar is a key to all this. If we get Jar Jar working, because he's a funnier character than we've ever had in any of the movies before.
Yes, I'm fully aware that the music in Breath of the Wild was meant to be minimalist, ambient, blend into the background to complement the purity of the game. That is all well and good. I do agree that it fits the setting extremely well, but I still don't like the music. It's not particularly interesting, it's not memorable. The dark and scary Lost Woods music was appropriate and atmospheric, but it was still boring and forgettable. In battles, the music picks up like more traditional Zelda music, but it still doesn't get much better. And no, I'm not asking for grandiose Hyrule Field music to be playing at all times. Of course that would get repetitive in such a massive world like this. I'm just looking for some more memorable music. Of course, it doesn't help that this man wasn't involved in the game. Koji Kondo's the greatest video game composer of all time, and unfortunately, as far as I know, he didn't work on this game at all. Instead, we heard the work of these two younger composers. I'm sure they'll get better with time, but Kondo sets the bar very high, and they simply weren't able to follow him. To be completely fair, I didn't hate or even dislike every track in the game. I really like the dude playing his accordion. It's catchy. And Ganon's castle music that's playing in the background right now was probably my favorite music in the entire game. But the fact of the matter is, I much prefer the more melodic driven songs of the other Zeldas, rather than, say, a couple of pleasant sounding notes on a piano. I like memorable music that sticks with you in any game. This is not exclusive to Zelda. I just don't like stuff that blends into the background as nice as it might be. As a reviewer, I can only play a game, finish it, and give you my thoughts on what I like or what I don't like. Creator's intent is completely irrelevant. That's all reviews are, everyone. It's just one person's opinion. It is totally fine if you like the music in Breath of the Wild, or if you like any of the other things that I personally had issues with. Just because I don't like it does not mean it's wrong to like it. At the same time, I am not wrong for disliking the music. I know my ears, and I know what sounds like good music, and Breath of the Wild doesn't have much of it, especially compared to the other Zelda titles. While we're on the subject of subjectivity, let's talk about my rankings of the games. The Legend of Zelda is over 30 years old and is one of the most subjective series of all time. Now here's what I mean by that. The games are so vast, contain so many different elements and points of focus, and they've changed so greatly over the years that it's only natural that different people are going to value different aspects of each game over others. Look no further than Majora's Mask, a game that is simultaneously loved and hated by hardcore Zelda fans. People took objection to my ranking of the 3D Zeldas at the end of my review video, claiming my love for Ocarina of Time was only due to nostalgia, and that Egoraptor's sequelitis video definitively proves that the game isn't a flawless masterpiece like all the nostalgia fools think. Over the years, I have seen the Zelda series ranked in every order imaginable. I've seen the DS games at the tippy top, and Ocarina of Time and Link to the Past, for example, all the way at the bottom, and really everything in between. So Egoraptor's argument isn't the first I've seen to criticize Ocarina of Time compared to the older titles, which could arguably be a nostalgia argument, but we'll get to that later. I personally think his argument is pretty flimsy and really the very definition of nitpicking. If you want to consider what he said about Ocarina of Time as flaws, or even major flaws, then feel free, but I've watched that video many times and I just see all of those cons that he brings up as completely negligent issues that he has with the game. To quickly sum it up, Ego's main points are: some of the puzzles are too simplistic. Some of the combat involves too much waiting and thus are too simplistic. Treasure chest opening animation is too long. Okay. Those are very small issues with the game. Those are the definition of small issues with the game, and the greatness of the game completely engulfs them in the end, which results in a 10 out of 10 in my personal opinion. I'm not going to call Aaron an asshole or anything, but I just never found any of those issues that he brought up to be a problem when it came to my enjoyment of the game. And by the way, all of those issues that he brought up are kinda still in Breath of the Wild. Like, look, here's my 20-second sequelitis video on Breath of the Wild. The combat in this game is so easy. None of these enemies are actually hard to fight. I just mash B and everyone dies. Is that fun? Just because the scenario is treacherous doesn't mean the game is actually treacherous. This game has so much fucking waiting. It starts raining, I gotta wait to climb a mountain. I fight a boss, he just flies around, I gotta wait for him to attack. Why do I gotta wait for these bosses? Is this hard? Is this fun? Breath of the Wild adds all this bullshit. Look, I climbed a tower, that's cool, that's nice. But then I get to the top and it's like, oh my god, I gotta wait so long. Oh god, I just want to see the map. See? Things like music being forgettable, below average dungeons, and lack of memorable moments are much bigger flaws and problems with the game than the chest opening animation goes on for too long in Ocarina of Time. While we're talking about the older Zeldas, let's move on to the second major argument I've received for my Breath of the Wild review. Ah yes, nostalgia. New versus old. The idea that something is better just because I have cherished memories of it, and nothing more. I fucking hate this argument. Is it fair to say Batman v Superman is better than The Godfather? Actually, yes, it is. It's totally fair to say that. You can like whatever you want. However, to say Batman v Superman is better because it's new, and the only reason you like The Godfather is because it's old and you have nostalgic memories of it, is a terrible argument that means nothing. Equally, on the other side, to say that an old game is better just because of some vague argument like, oh, it just used to be better back in the day, that's equally dumb. Anytime I praise an older game like Ocarina of Time or Majora's Mask, I try to explain not only why I love those games, but also why they hold up today. So when someone claims that I only like older games because of nostalgia, it comes off as extremely lazy, and quite frankly, you're wrong. Allow me to quickly give you a history of my time with the Zelda series. I first played Zelda in 1998 when Ocarina of Time came out. And guess what? Oh, see, exactly. You have nostalgia, okay? Ocarina of Time isn't even that good. Like, you just have nostalgia. That's the only reason why you like it. It actually sucks. Hey, let me finish. When I first played Ocarina in 1998, I didn't like it. My favorite game at the time was Mario 64. And I couldn't fathom playing a game where you couldn't jump. So I got stuck in Kokiri Forest and wasted a 3-day rental from Blockbuster. I'll never play a Zelda game again, I said. Fast forward to 2003. I'm thirsty for a new game for my GameCube. So screw it. I bought Wind Waker. Now I don't know what it was at the time that hooked me onto this game. Maybe it was the flawless art direction, maybe it was the unforgettable music, whatever it was. I played through the entire game and I loved every minute of it. So now, with one Zelda game under my belt and a greater understanding of the franchise, I decided to give Ocarina of Time another chance. This time, everything finally clicked. I was lost in the world of Ocarina of Time, more so than even Wind Waker, which I adored. Still craving more Zelda, a friend lent me his copy of Majora's Mask. Though it took a while for me to get used to the 3-day gameplay, Majora's Mask quickly became my favorite Zelda game, period. Why is that? Maybe I have a video coming up about that. I don't know, maybe, we'll see. In 2004, Nintendo announced the new Zelda for GameCube. This time it would have realistic graphics, none of that cartoony Zelda bullshit. Surely it would be the greatest game of all time. Hype for this game was insane. 2006 came along and Twilight Princess was released to tremendous critical reception. There I was, with a brand new Nintendo Wii and the all-new Zelda. This would be the best game ever. Right? Wrong. Twilight Princess was a real disappointment for me. I could go into detail, but that might require a whole entire separate video, right? Hey? More videos? Hey? Okay, I'll stop. I was the odd man out. Nearly everyone praised the game, telling me I was crazy for not thinking it was better than Wind Waker or Majora's Mask. Maybe I was the weird one. Maybe Zelda wasn't for me anymore. With the announcement of Skyward Sword, I was decidedly less excited than I was for Twilight Princess. I kept expectations low, but deep down, I also hoped that Twilight Princess was just a one-off, and Skyward Sword would return to the greatness of those first three 3D Zeldas. Once again, the game came out to incredible critical reception, and I was not a fan. It made so many of the same mistakes as Twilight Princess. This was the all-time low of my fandom. It was also the first time I really started getting chewed out online for wearing nostalgia goggles. I was almost sure at this point that these people were right. I must just be some old nostalgic fool who can't appreciate new games. But then something strange happened. One day in summer of 2012, I decided I was going to play some of the critically acclaimed games from before my time as a gamer that I missed out on. This led me to one game. The Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past. It was breathtaking. A Super Nintendo game was taking my breath away in 2012. It was the best game I played that year. I literally couldn't believe I waited this long to play it. I was playing a 10 out of 10 game. This proved to me one thing. My issues with Twilight Princess and Skyward Sword had nothing to do with nostalgia. Nintendo could still make a great Zelda if they wanted to. And 1 year later, they wanted to. Link Between Worlds was announced for the 3DS. I was initially turned off by the new Super Mario Bros.-esque clean art style of the game. I thought it looked kind of ugly, but I was intrigued to play a game that so heavily stood on the shoulders of the Super Nintendo Classic. And it blew me away! Link Between Worlds was a nearly perfect game, and all of the issues I had with Twilight Princess and Skyward Sword were nowhere to be found. This only had me more excited for the impending 3D Zelda for the Wii U. Which brings us to right now. I don't know how else to say it, but I really don't think nostalgia has anything to do with the games I love. I still play the N64 Zeldas regularly, and they hold up masterfully after all of these years as true classics of the medium. Even though they've been improved on technically, the games themselves are still timeless. Besides, there have been games since the N64 era that I deem worthy of a 10 out of 10 score. They're just few and far between. To claim that I refuse to give Breath of the Wild a perfect score just because I don't hold nostalgic feelings for the game is bad. And you should feel bad. I want to stress this once again, that I gave this game an 8 out of 10. It is very good, and I'm enjoying the hell out of it. Just because I didn't give it a perfect score does not mean I dislike the game. I just had a couple of issues with it. In fact, after the initial 30 hours that I put into the game before my review, and by the way, some of you commenters said 30 hours and beating the game wasn't enough to accurately review a game, are you fucking kidding me? Since then, I've pumped another 40 hours into the game. Do you think I'd do that if I didn't enjoy playing the game? Admittedly, the additional time I put into the game hasn't really changed my overall opinion or ranking of the game. Like, the shrines are still fun, the world is still fun to explore, and discovering new things is good, but, like, the music is still forgettable. But the point is, it's a very fun game, and you should play it. I will continue to play it regularly. I'm going to continue to upload awesome Breath of the Wild content on my channel, and I'm super looking forward to the DLC that's coming later this year. Even though I was somewhat disappointed with this game, I am probably more excited about Zelda than I've ever been for at least a good 10 years. Coming out of Twilight Princess and Skyward Sword, I was pretty down. All of the mistakes made with those games just had me thinking, they just don't get it. With Breath of the Wild, There's so much done right here. So many of the mistakes made with those Wii games have been completely eliminated. They totally get it here. Despite some of the flaws, they get it. If they take this foundation and fix some of the little things with the next Zelda, we could finally be looking at something that rivals the best Zelda games, at least in my mind. It's a very exciting time to be a Zelda fan. I want to thank you so much for watching, and I want to thank everybody who took time to comment on my last video, especially those who gave fair and balanced feedback and criticism. But also to those who gave me a bunch of shit. I hope you're able to watch this video and maybe get a better understanding of where I'm coming from. In the coming weeks, I have a lot of Zelda related content planned, not only related to Breath of the Wild, but I'm also going to be diving into the older Zeldas and explaining why I love them so much, or not so much. Thank you so much for watching. Again, this is Tony from Strong Style Gaming Network. Please like, subscribe, comment, and all that good stuff. Peace out.